Hello and welcome to A Lady Well Traveled. I'm Shannon Bednarova, your host and creator, and I'm delighted that you've joined us today. As usual, we're here to talk about all things travel, and we want to make your travel experience a bit more enjoyable and less stressful. So, do you know that dyslexia is one of the most common learning disabilities and it impacts approximately 15 to 20% of the population? Chances are quite high that you or someone you know is impacted by this disability. Dyslexia affects reading, spelling, and writing. Now, just take a moment and think about how often you use these skills and how you probably take them for granted. Now, if you don't have dyslexia, the challenges it presents to those who do may not be top of mind. However, dyslexics face many obstacles in a world where communication is king, and reading, speaking, and writing are fundamental skills that are needed to function well. Our guest today is going to help us understand what it's like for a dyslexic person to travel and to give our audience some important tools to use when navigating and exploring the world. He's an expert researcher on dyslexia for the state of New York, and his name is Russell Van Brocklen, aka the Dyslexia Professor, who has pioneered new teaching methods for dyslexic children and is an early education specialist. Welcome to A Lady Well Traveled, Russell.
Thanks for having me.
We're delighted to have you. So, Russell, is there anything in my introduction, which I'm sure there is, that you think the audience should know about your professional background that I haven't covered?
Well, first of all, just everybody knows I've done over 230 podcasts in the past year. And
Wow.
what I find out a lot is people are concerned about, why should I listen to this guy? So, especially in relations to dyslexia. So just so everybody knows, I'm severely dyslexic myself, and a quick story about how I got started and what I do, because the main point I want you to focus on is that I am a New York State Senate dyslexic funded researcher.
Okay.
It was late 90s. I wanted to figure out how laws were made. So I signed up for the New York State Assembly internship, but I showed up with a first grade reading and writing level based on my neuropsychological evaluation, and I couldn't do the internship the way it was designed. So they accommodated the living heck out of me, and they sent back to my college, the State University of New York Center at Buffalo, a recommendation of 15 credits of A-. And when I said they accommodated the living heck out of me, they did everything conceivably possible to make this work. And they did an excellent job. But the political science department didn't like the accommodation, so instead of 15 credits of A-, they lowered my grade to 15 credits of F. And that's still in my transcript 29 years later.
Okay.
So I said I was going to solve dyslexia.
Okay.
And unlike everybody else who attempted this besides Dr. Orton, I actually did. I asked my professors where I could go in grad school to force myself to learn to read and write. And they said, well, law school if you like political science. So I went to law school with the inability to read or write. My first case in contracts, I responded to the professor not as a student, but as his equal. We argued for 15 minutes. I learned to read within a month, write within a couple of years. I went back to the New York State Senate. I asked for funding for my new research project. Took years to get approval, and finally got the funding. We went to the Averill Park Central School District right outside of Albany, New York, our state capital. We worked with highly motivated, highly intelligent high school juniors and seniors. They were writing at the middle school level. One class period a day for the school year. They increased their writing to the average range of entering graduate students. They all went on to college. They all graduated, GPAs of 2.5 to 3.6. Cost New York State taxpayers less than $900 a kid.
Wow.
Compared to the best dyslexic transfer college, we were 3 times more successful for less than 1% of the cost. And that's how I got started.
That's an amazing success story. I'm sure there are many others who are like me, who understand what dyslexia is from maybe a 50,000 foot high range, but can you talk about the day-to-day realities of dyslexia? We don't understand a disability fully unless we live with it or unless we know someone who does. When I was doing research for this podcast, I found many definitions for dyslexia out there on the internet. I found one that was adopted by the International Dyslexia Association Board of Directors, and it said that dyslexia is a specific learning disability that are characterized by difficulties in word reading and or spelling that involve accuracy, speed, or both, and vary depending on the orthography, which is the conventional spelling system used for a language. So, can you just tell me, from a person who has dyslexia, what it means to you to have dyslexia?
How about we actually show you what it is?
Okay.
This is the best book in my field. It's called Overcoming Dyslexia by Dr. Sally Shaywitz from Yale. This
Okay.
is the second edition. And let's just look at what dyslexia is.
Okay.
That's dyslexia. Do you see how the back part of your brain has this massive neural activity?
Right.
But the back part of my brain has like essentially zero.
Okay.
Now, do you see how the front part of my brain's about 2.5 times overactive?
Yes.
Okay.
A person with dyslexia, uh,
Mm-hmm.
uh, their frontal lobe is way more active than their posterior lobes.
Yes. I'm just going to call it front and back part of the brain just to
Okay.
make it simple.
Okay.
It's really unfair for when I go to grad school
Yeah.
because that's in our area of extreme interest and ability. That's where it hits. Remember when I told you I argued for 15 minutes with my professor when I
Yeah.
was first called on? When I had to get my stuff approved by a senior professor before I got funded by the state, it was supposed to take years. I
Right.
got it approved in less than 2 weeks.
Wow. Yeah.
But for most people, if you want to know exactly what dyslexia is, the best thing I can do is describe to you how to actually solve the biggest problem that I'm contacted with. I want you to imagine that there's a parent out there who wants to travel with their kid,
Okay.
but they don't know how to communicate with them. Or especially this happens to a lot of grandparents.
Okay.
They want to work with their elementary school kid. But the problem is the kid's writing a bunch of apparently randomly placed misspelled words.
Mm-hmm.
They can't organize their thinking. They can't have a coherent conversation of what they're looking to do. And they're crying all the time because they're so upset because they can't write a basic sentence. I'm going to show you how to fix that in less than 10 minutes. All right.
Okay.
So do you know any dyslexic elementary school kid who's writing a bunch of apparently randomly placed misspelled words?
Do I know anybody? No.
Yes.
No,
Okay.
I don't.
So I'm going to give you an example. And what's going to happen is I'm going to explain the process. I'm going to, at one point, ask you two of the simplest questions you will ever be asked. If you follow them exactly, this will work. If not, you're going to get tremendously confused. And then you and your audience are going to have an epiphany on what dyslexia actually is.
Okay.
Okay. So the first thing I'm going to tell you is, let's say we're dealing with Sarah. She's the person I use in these examples. What you need to understand about Sarah, she's 10 years old, in 5th grade, writing randomly placed misspelled words. And this is the key thing. Her speciality, her area of extreme interest and ability is swimming. She's on the swim team. She gets to the pool every time she can. She loves it. So what you're going to do is pull out a laptop computer with an actual keyboard. Not an iPad, not an iPhone, and certainly not handwriting.
Mm-hmm.
And you're going to type out hero, plus sign, what are we talking about? And then she's going to copy it. And your audience is screaming, what do you mean we can't copy it? That's against the rules. Professor James Collins, Strategies for Struggling Writers, Default writing strategies of copying, visualization, and narrative. It's okay. So she copies it until it's correct. Then we're going to swap out hero for Sarah's name. So now we got Sarah, plus sign, what are we talking about? Then we're going to go to a list of 10 things that Sarah really, really likes, and then 10 things that Sarah really, really dislikes. And the
Okay.
first thing that she really, really likes is swimming. So we got Sarah, plus sign, what are we talking about? We're going to swap out what are we talking about for swimming. So we got Sarah, plus sign, swimming. See how we got there?
Yeah.
Now, I'm going to ask you two of the simplest questions you were ever asked in your life to try to fool you.
Okay.
Answer them exactly. This will work. If not, you're going to get really confused, and then you'll have an epiphany of what dyslexia really is.
Okay.
Do you think I can fool you?
Probably. Yeah.
All right, let's give it a shot. So we got Sarah, plus sign, swimming. We need to replace the plus sign with a word. Here's my question. Does Sarah like or dislike swimming?
She liked it.
Right, but that's not what I asked.
Did Sarah like or dislike swimming?
Exactly. What's the
Yes.
answer?
She liked swimming.
But that's not what I asked.
Okay. Then I
So I
guess
have you nice and confused.
Okay, fine. Did Sarah like or dislike swimming?
Yes, that's the question. What's the answer?
Yes. I have to, again, I'm confused. So,
Let me show you what's going on.
Okay.
This is what's going on. You're supposed to process this in this part of the brain
Okay.
where you have a lot of neural activity. Sarah's got nothing going on back here.
Okay.
So when I asked, does Sarah like or dislike swimming, you did what almost every educated person does. You automatically added the S or added the D to make it a proper sentence.
Okay. But she
Sarah doesn't
didn't.
know how to add the S or add the D, so she would have said like. So we got Sarah like swimming.
Okay.
All right. Do you see the issue?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Okay. So how do we get, so I want you to think back to when you were in elementary school. If the
Okay.
teacher had to explain that rule to you a fourth or fifth time, they would get annoyed. Okay.
Okay.
You picked it up within a couple of explanations and corrections. You could tell this to Sarah 100 times. There's nothing going on back here. She doesn't know how to do it. So how do the rich do it? How would Bill Gates' grandkids do this? Well, if you go to the Windward School in the Upper East Side of Manhattan, they have a 98% success rate. They would take Sarah in, work with her for 4 to 5 years, and send her back to her current school as the best educated kid she could possibly be from any of the best private schools on the planet for $75,000 a year for 4 to 5 years.
Okay.
All right. For those of us who don't have $500,000 sitting under the couch cushion, here's how we can do this at home. And what we would do is we would ask Sarah to read what she wrote out loud. Sarah, like swimming. Then I would, Sarah, you read what you wrote out loud now. Do it again, but answer this question. Does it sound generally correct? She'd go, Sarah likes swimming. She'd say no. And I would say, Sarah, fix it. Sarah likes swimming. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now, why am I doing it that way? Because let's go and look at the image again. Well, Sarah has this massive 2.5 times the activity up here. So why don't we pull the stuff from back here where nothing's working to the front part of the brain that actually works?
Okay.
And
Mm-hmm.
according to Yale, that deals with word analysis followed by articulation. Now, do you see how what I just showed you is a simple form of word analysis?
Yeah.
Okay. Now we're going to go because reason one. Give me a simple reason of why a 10-year-old girl would like swimming.
Simple reason, because I love the water and I just think it's just the most wonderful thing in the world.
Okay. Sarah likes swimming because it's the most wonderful thing in the world.
Yeah.
Now, do you see how the reasons are a simple form of articulation?
Yeah.
So what we've done is we move things from the back part of the brain where nothing's going on to the front part where we have 2.5 times the neural activity.
Okay.
But the problem is she's thinking so rapidly with little to no organization, we got to fix that. So what we do is we tell Sarah first, read what you wrote out loud, and does it sound generally correct? And then when you say no, fix it, and keep doing that over and over again until it does, the whole sentence sounds generally correct. Because now teachers have a horrendous time with randomly placed misspelled words. But now we fix the grammar to the point where we got little mistakes into some medium mistakes, and they know how to fix that. Okay. But then we still got the spelling problem, and people think spelling is so hard to fix. It's not.
Right.
We drop the period. We tell her to drop the period, and then we say, Sarah, each time you misspell a word, you have to retype the entire sentence. And she's going to say, I'm not going to make that mistake again. And she keeps making it for another 3 to 13 times.
Mm-hmm.
And people are like, so she has to keep retyping until she gets it right. I said, yes, that's the system. And this is going to be slow, and it's going to take forever. You may think this will take but compared to the private school, which is, again, 4 to 5 years of full time, you're
Right.
doing this part time in a much shorter period of time. So she does that until she gets it correct. Again, 3 to 13 times. Then you're going to do the same thing for reason. We're going to do that for the same thing for the next 9 likes and 10 dislikes. And then for reason 1 and reason 2, 10 likes and 10 dislikes. Reason 1, reason 2, and reason 3, 10 likes and 10 dislikes. At the end of that, Sarah's going to be able to write a decent 3-reason sentence with correct spelling and decent grammar. Here's the other thing. Her reading has also improved because if you can write it, you can read it. If you can write it, you can read it.
Okay.
Now, that's step 3 of the model. But let's say we're talking about parents and grandparents who want to travel with their grandkids. The first thing that you need to understand is if you want the child to really have any sort of interest in this, or any adult who's dyslexic, ADD, or ADHD, is we have to focus on their speciality, their area of extreme interest and ability. So before I give you my next example, I want you to understand it's Casey. I never saw anybody like Casey before. I will never see anybody like Casey again. This was a one-off edge case. Casey was 10 years old, in 5th grade, reading at the 2nd grade level, and she had a fanatical interest in Theodore Roosevelt. This was the end of 5th grade. Over the summer, she turned 11.
Theodore Roosevelt. Interesting.
So I assigned her this little book, The
Okay.
Rise of Theodore Roosevelt, all 900 pages of it.
Excellent.
This book won the Pulitzer. Casey was reading at the 2nd grade level. This is at the 10th grade level.
Okay.
So I gave her a simple process on reading. She went up to her room, shut the door for 3 hours a night for 6 months.
Okay.
Most of the days during the summertime. At the end of that, you could switch to some random page, point to a random word, and she would tell you the dictionary definition.
Okay.
Verbatim. Casey jumped 8 grade levels in 6 months, and I worked with her for 15 minutes a week.
Wonderful. Wow.
Okay. Why am I spending so much time on this? Because the next book I gave her, she freaking hated.
Okay.
This was under instructions from her mom, who wanted to know what would happen if we stepped outside her specialty.
Okay.
Casey went through that, and then I asked her, how much did your motivation drop? The most motivated kid I ever worked with. It dropped 50%. Most dyslexics and ADD and ADHD students will drop 75 to 90%. Okay, so when you're focusing on overcoming their academic issues until they're at grade level, or when you're traveling, you want to find out what their interest is, or they're going to completely check out. You could take a kid, like one of my clients brought their 12-year-old son to Paris, and he was completely disengaged. So his mom's like, why was he completely disengaged in Paris?
Doesn't care.
And her 14-year-old daughter was completely engaged. I
Right.
said, it's Paris.
Right.
Paris is generally associated where women are interested. I talked to him. I said, on your way back, try Rome. He was fascinated by it, loved the Colosseum because he loved ancient Rome. I said, you have to focus on his speciality. The next thing, and this is one of the hardest things for people to understand, but we really have to be clear on this. If you ask a dyslexic or an ADD or ADHD person in their speciality, do they have ideas flying around their head at light speed but with little to no organization? They're going to say yes. So what we have to do is to force the dyslexic brain to organize itself by using writing as a measurable output, but also this is how you communicate effectively.
Okay.
So I want you to think, if you were, like when you're looking at most things on travel, it starts off with big picture, and then over time it gets down to the details. Sound familiar?
Sure.
That's like grabbing fog for a dyslexic. We have no idea what to do. So we need the exact opposite. So let me try to put that in perspective. So let's say you're taking a dream trip of your lifetime.
Okay. Yeah.
What's the one place you want to go that's expensive as all heck that you could never afford to go, but you really want to go to?
For me, let's say Egypt. I was scheduled to go to Egypt and it got canceled. So Egypt.
Okay, so we're talking the pyramids probably,
Yes,
right?
let's go see the pyramids and the Sphinx and all of the tombs and, the temples at Karnak and all that fun stuff.
Okay, so let's say you had a grandkid you wanted to take with you.
Yeah.
Who was dyslexic. All right, I'm going to call him John.
John.
All right, let's call him John, who's 12, and he's interested in Egypt as well. You start talking to John about the big picture of Egypt and all these things you want to do, and he has this blank face like, huh? No idea of what's going on.
Right.
The interest is there, because, and then you keep talking, and eventually you get to a detail, and he lights up.
Yes.
Yeah, that's when you get the spark.
Right.
And you're wondering what's going on because your other grandkids just know what's going on.
Right.
Okay. What's going on with John is you're trying to start off big picture and eventually get to the details.
You got to start
That's the
small.
back part of the brain where he's got nothing going on. So we're dealing with the front part where it's massively 2.5 times overactive. So what we have to do is start off at a very specific point, not just about the Sphinx, but some detail about it. So what I would do is ask him, just what are you really, really interested in?
Yeah.
And then he will tell you. And then what I would do is I would literally go to ChatGPT or your favorite, or Opus 4.6 if it's Claude. And I would say, here's what my grandkid's really interested in. Let's get really specific. Give me 10 things that are really specific in like 2 sentences about the Sphinx, and then give it to him and find which one are you most interested in, and he'll point to one, that one. And then what I do is I'll have like maybe a 5,000 word document custom created on that at his grade level.
Mhm.
The thing about dyslexics is you want to put a reading level in at their grade level and a context, but the level of difficulty for the material is probably a couple years ahead of where they're supposed to be. If they're
Okay.
having reading issues, you might want to go to something called Speechify. I know it's shocking at $160 and it's a year, it's not on a monthly basis, but then they get to pick their voice and
Wow,
it
yeah.
helps out a lot. The free version is useless. And then you go through that, and what you're going to find is he's going to get really interested in a specific thing. And then you start off at a specific point, and then you go outwards. What
Okay.
you would say is research something that you're really interested in on that specific point, and then once you have the answer, ask another question, which will give you an answer, which will give you a question, which will give you an answer. And what you will find is that it'll force his brain to organize itself by using writing as a measurable output. And
Mhm.
that'll keep him incredibly intrigued.
Oh,
Now,
wow.
if you're dealing with an an ADHD person, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, once you get them in their speciality, they are so laser focused, they will spend forever on this. I have talked to grandparents who are taking their grandkids traveling, and they'd get them started on this. And what happened? They had to pull them off like for minor things like eating and, going to
Yeah,
bed.
sleeping and just yeah, because it gets so focused.
They would say, literally, what do I do? I would say, pull the stuff away, put the food in front of them, and say, eat or you're not going to do this.
Mhm.
Or pull it away, you are going to bed.
Mhm.
This is not a conversation. I am not asking, I'm telling. And they're
Right.
going to go, "Eh," and then they'll do it. Okay. But that's the issue. But you step outside anything from their speciality, they just won't do a thing. So, what is the model? Focus on their speciality, especially if you're teaching them to read until they're at grade level. Teach them from the specific to the general, word analysis followed by articulation. Parents would ask me, well, what does this look like in reality? To
Mhm.
solve everything. I like to give an example of Kimberly. She's the subject of the book that I'm writing. The title of the book that I'm writing, it's called If You Write, You Can Read. Kimberly, I met her on December 27th of 2024. And she said that she just spent a couple $100 to $700 to have the state of Ohio test her kids. She's a religious homeschooling mom with some college. Her 4 non-dyslexic kids were reading brilliantly with traditional methods, but her fifth kid, who was in 5th grade, he was reading at the 11th percentile, writing at the 4th percentile. She's really concerned. So I worked with her for half an hour a week for the rest of the school year through June. And she worked with Reed for an hour and a half a week, 3 half-an-hour sessions. Most parents do 10 to 15-minute sessions. At the end of the school year, he had an increase, which I'm not telling you about because over the summer, Reed's friends came to him and they said, Reed, we want you in public school to be with us socially. So beginning of August, call it 8.5 months later, he was tested in a public school. Mom's miles away, much better data. If he scored, even if he doubled what he did in December, which would have been a good increase, 22nd percentile in
Right.
reading and 8th in writing,
He wouldn't.
he would have been in special ed,
Yeah,
away from his
exactly.
friends, unhappy kid. That didn't happen. His reading jumped to the 64th percentile. His writing jumped to the 65th. His grammar jumped to the 97th. He was placed in normal classes with his friends. As of a couple of days ago, Reed was getting mainly A's and B's.
That's
Kimberly,
wonderful.
well, yes, Kimberly accomplished what every parent dreams
Well,
of
yeah.
in less than 9 months
Yeah, that's
at home in an hour and a half a week, not a full-time dyslexic school at
yeah,
hundreds of thousands over 4 to 5 years.
that's
That's
great.
how powerful this is.
Yes, that's fantastic. I'm a believer. I don't know personally anyone now that is dyslexic, but goodness gracious, I would certainly refer them to you because your method makes sense. It really does.
Well, let's look at it this way when it comes to travel.
Okay. And that's where I want to get because I do know people with ADHD and how when you focus on something they're passionate about, they can talk about it and look at it and research it for days. And when you talk about something that they're not interested in, it's like Ricky Bobby hands and head. So that definitely strikes a chord with me because I've seen that glazed over look. They
Yeah,
can't
now
focus.
I wanted you to understand this because when you gave me that definition from the International Dyslexia Association, just so you know, I've been a reviewer 3 times for them
Okay.
for reading and writing programs for their national conference.
Right. And it doesn't mean that it's a bad definition. It just doesn't really mean anything to me as a person without dyslexia. The descriptors don't tell me exactly what it's like to have dyslexia.
Yeah, so let's take an example of somebody. You're a professional podcaster in this area. Tell me a client or a friend or somebody that, let's just assume they had a dyslexic travel companion.
Mhm.
Okay.
Okay.
Change their name to protect their identity. What's their made up name?
Vanessa.
And where is it that Vanessa and her traveling companion want to go to?
Let's say Vanessa wants to go to France, to Paris.
Okay. So here's the hardest thing you're going to have with your travel companion that you're thinking about. Ask them, do they actually really want to go to France and Paris?
Mhm.
And if they say no and they're neurodiverse, big piece of advice,
Don't
pick
go.
a different place to go or pick a different travel companion. I have seen the disaster
Yes.
where this was a long time ago. One of my mom's friends wanted to do the exact same thing.
Okay.
And she picked one of her best friends who was ADHD,
Okay.
and they picked Paris. And this was not an inexpensive trip.
Yeah.
And it was a freaking disaster
I
because her
bet.
friend had
We
no interest. She was sulking. She just made the whole
pouted
thing
the whole
miserable.
time. Yeah, I bet.
So then they picked another. They said, well, they came up with some idea where the original woman said, well, it's not on my top list, but I'm interested. But her travel companion really, really, really wanted to go to Munich, Germany, because she had an interest in history, especially World War II.
Okay.
So they went and they had an absolutely splendid time because her travel
Bless.
companion made all the plans, looked things up, found things that nobody else could see. And what she realized, what my mom's friend realizes when I'm dealing with her travel companion, it's best to find out what if there's something that they actually have a common interest in, then let her do the planning because she was in more detail than a professional travel planner, looking at the smallest detail, looking at where to go, where to stay, all this stuff.
Yes.
And when there were problems because of different expectations from different countries, she actually had the solutions for both of them. And it was extraordinarily helpful.
Yes. Yes. People with dyslexia and ADHD, ADD are very, very capable of doing all of those things. Their brain works brilliantly in all of those areas when they're focused. I just think it's incredible how, if they are passionate, how there's such a huge difference. Now, taking that, how do you get that dyslexic or the person with ADHD to be able to function? Because we all have to do things we don't want to do, and we all have to do things that we're not passionate about. Is that something that is a learned behavior later, like you
Oh,
said, when they get to
no,
a
no, no.
grade level?
It's much more severe than that.
Okay.
You have to bring the kids to grade level
Okay.
or they're completely non-functional in
Okay.
anything. So what I just showed you, I'll give you an example with Reed. He went into public school. There were some tensions, like in math class, his teacher wanted him to write a lot and he didn't want to. So
Okay.
I told his parents and his teachers to be like this.
Mhm.
Just hold your arms, you're doing this.
Right.
And he fought and rebelled. You have a family, you raise kids, all right? If you a well-behaved kid, if they will test you, and once they know they're not going to be any limits, they'll go and do it, and then he's doing fine. But what I haven't told you is an advanced version of this,
Okay.
so that you can deal with middle, high school, and college students.
Okay.
Okay. First of all, how far have you gone in your education?
Graduate school.
Okay. What if I told you I could teach you something right now to move this up to body paragraphs where I could actually teach you something that would improve your writing.
Go ahead. I'd love
Okay.
anything to improve my writing. I write all the time.
Okay. So this is the basics of how to do an advanced things for middle, high school, and college students, because honestly, what I told you before works great if you're in elementary school, but not the more advanced students. Same process. So I want you to first tell me about a movie that you know intimately, you think is one of the best of all time, and that everybody has seen. What's the name of that movie?
Okay, Out of Africa.
Out of Africa. Now I'm going to ask you a very difficult thing. I need you to reduce Out of Africa to a one-word universal theme that best represents the entire movie. One word.
Romantic.
Romantic. Wow, you did that really quick. Fantastic. Now, here's how you'd write a proper review. You would say, to look at the main actors that you want to discuss. How do they do with the universal theme of romantic? How did the director do? How did the screenwriter do? You'd write your review that way. Then people will decide, do I want to see this movie or not see this movie? If they want to see it, you've enhanced their experience because they now know what to look for. Now, here's the problem with that. Do you see how the universal theme of romantic is like a broad brush?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's just so general you can't hyper-focus. See the problem?
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Now we have to fix that. How we fix that is I'm going to traumatize some of your audience by going back to high school Shakespeare. It's just for a moment.
I love it. I love high school
Why
Shakespeare.
Because when you're trying to communicate, just you can adapt this for advanced travel planning when you're dealing with dyslexics at an involved level. When you're dealing with Shakespeare, he's the ultimate in human English-speaking history for communication. So if you go back to any play in Shakespeare in high school, you're going to find that there's a hero. The hero
Yes.
wants to accomplish something by using one or more universal themes. Then there's an ultimate villain or antagonist. That's a person,
yes.
a concept, or some combination there too. That tries to
Iago. Yes.
yes, that tries to prevent the hero from accomplishing their goal. And then they have a conflict that starts in Act 1. It builds into Act 2, and then it solves in Act 3. Sound familiar?
Uh-huh.
Here's how we simplify that process. So what we would do, and I'm just going to give this for adults for traveling, okay? And so I'm going to give you this the adult way because the other ones takes a while. What you're going to do is you're going to go and say, we have a hero. Hero wants to do something. Write out paragraph after paragraph after paragraph. For each sentence, you're going to say, what's the most important word? Then you're going to list the most important words, ask the AI to say, give me custom definitions, and then based on what the hero wants to do, what's the top 10? Then as the human, you pick out the one that best represents the best one. But write romance for the movie you mentioned. It's very broad. How do we make this more specific? We would then go to the artificial intelligence and say, give me 100 synonyms and the custom definitions, and then ask the AI to tell you what the top 10 are based on what the hero wants to do. And then you're looking for the word that best represents what's in your head, as close as possible. The AI is doing the grunt work. Once you find the word that best represents in your head, that's your universal theme. But now, because it's never going to be perfect what's in your head, it's going to be close. We can now laser focus and find the ultimate villain, the ultimate antagonist. Then we're going to have the hero, our universal theme, and our villain separated by 2 plus signs. We ask the dyslexic to read that out loud. Does it sound generally correct? Keep doing until it does. Do you see how that's an evolved form of word analysis?
Yes. Yeah.
So how would this apply to travel?
Yeah.
Well, a lot of people want to go and see things from history or from their favorite movie.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Run through the same process.
Yeah.
You're the hero. What do you want to do? And then with that really strong universal theme, that really exact one, it's a lot easier to laser focus on different things that you want to do.
Harry Potter, for example. I'm not a Harry Potter fan, but I just recently traveled to Scotland and England and with Harry Potter fans, and they wanted to see everything having to do with Harry Potter. And so did a ton of other people. That is something that may appeal to children, for grandparents.
Absolutely. But I remember I was dealing with one Harry Potter fan. She said, listen, she's not dyslexic. She eventually became an AP English student.
Wow.
Brilliant. And she's a very evolved reader. She said, you can't teach me anything with Harry Potter. I'm too big for that. I said, really?
Okay.
We're going to focus on 2 characters. One is Dumbledore and one is Snape.
Okay.
And I actually taught an advanced process going because those are two of the most complicated characters. And after we were done, she said, "Yeah, I know about them much deeper." I said, "Yes, because Harry Potter is not just for kids."
Yeah.
Took us over a year to get through that, but she was flying through. She said, "Wow, this is interesting." I said, "Okay, take what you've learned." And her parents were going on a trip. I said, "What are you interested in?" She said, "Well, me and my brothers are interested in the Battle of Chancellorsville." So I said, "Oh, okay. Here's the best book on Chancellorsville." She's like, "How do you know that?" I said, "Because it's common and I have over 600 books in my audio library. I've
Right.
listened to it numerous times." I said, "When you go there, you're going to see the foundations of the Chancellorsville house. It
Yes.
actually burned down." They went through the book and they absolutely freaking loved it. They said
Yes.
they were pointing out to the tour guide what was going on and why. He's like, "Where do you know this?" He's like, "Oh, the books in your bookstore. You didn't read it?"
Huh?
The audiobook was over. She read it. Her dyslexic brother listened to it, and
Yes.
they just had a fascinating time about it.
Yes.
And then I told her, "We won the Battle of Chancellorsville." She's like,
Right.
"What do you mean?" I said, "Well, yes, the South actually defeated the Union, but Stonewall Jackson was
Stonewall
shot by
Jackson.
his own
That's
men.
correct. Yes.
And when Lee went up to Gettysburg, he was only really dealing with Longstreet, and Longstreet and him were not talking. That's why one of the main reasons why the South
Yes.
lost
Yes.
Gettysburg." I said, "Yes, these little questions really make you learn much more about history." And it helped out tremendously because the next thing she said is, "Mom, Dad, we got to go do Gettysburg."
Goodness, we've been talking for almost an hour. This is incredibly interesting. What would you say as the closing to this wonderful session? Little hints and tips for travel with your person who may have dyslexia, ADHD, or ADD.
Let's just go through the model again. Focus on their area of extreme interest and ability.
Okay.
Communicate it from a specific point and slowly go outward, and then focus on word analysis followed by articulation. So by
Okay.
that, find out what they're interested in, start off with a specific point,
Okay.
and what you want to do is come up with a universal theme
Right.
that they can start off with, and then you want them to articulate it, and then when you have an answer, repeat the process over
Repeat the
and over again
process. I love that.
until yeah, and then that'll work because that's how our brain works.
Brain works. And don't travel with a person who has these concerns to a place that they hate because it will be a
Yes.
disaster. Yeah. So do yourself a favor, stay at home or pick another place or another traveling companion.
Yes, the thing about the neurodiverse is we are very easy to figure out. All right. The
Yeah?
most extreme case that I have is this is by far my most popular book.
Yeah?
It's called Walt Disney: The Triumph of the American Imagination, and it's about 1,000
Yeah.
pages long. I'll give
Wow.
this to a 10-year-old, and she went and she told her parents, "Mom, Dad, I need to go to Disney World to learn to read."
Yeah.
And they came to me and they said, "What's going on?" I
Yeah.
said, "Well, if you go to the Magic Kingdom and you walk into Main Street, USA, have you ever been there?"
Yes.
Okay. That's based in Marceline, Missouri,
Yes.
which is, in this book, it's about the ninth, 10th grade level of reading in that section, which is about 4,000 words.
Right.
So if your daughter, once she can read that, because she's currently reading at the second grade level, will you take her to Disney so she can connect with this? And they said yes. So then she, 6 months later, they took her down to Disney. And then she wanted to go to Marceline, Missouri herself. Now the parents could afford this. They took her there. And then they came back and I said, "Okay." We finished up with the book. And then she said, "Mom, Dad, I want to go back and really experience this again." So they looked at me and said, "This is a second trip to Disney?" And I said, "Yes, but you remember that private school you were literally going to write a check for? That's
Mhm.
like 75 grand a year." I said, "Well, I think you're getting out cheap
Cheaper.
compared to
Yeah.
that." And they said,
Exactly.
yes. They took her back and she loved it. And it was far less expensive than doing it
Yeah.
that
Well, thank you so much for
way.
this. You have been delightful. I hope you'll come back on another time. And will you please just give everybody your website and contact information?
The best thing to do is to go to dyslexiaclasses.com with an S, dyslexia.com. There's a button there that says download free guide. Click on that, answer 3 questions, and set up a time to speak with me, and we can go over this for half an hour, no cost.
Oh, you're awesome. Thank you so much, Russell. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks for having me on.
Okay. Hope you've enjoyed this episode of A Lady Well Traveled as much as I have. Thank you so much for joining us. As always, if you'd like to contact me, reach out at Shannon at aladywelltraveled.com. That's Shannon at aladywelltraveled.com. That's traveled with two L's. As always, you know that God created this big, beautiful world just for you. All you have to do is get out there and see it. And so until next time, bye bye.